Not quite brave.
Yeah, good stuff though, isn't it? It's nice. He was in the exact same gear this morning in the airport.
Well, I was just going to say for our listeners on FM, our radio listeners, of which there are still one or two, it can't be that exclusive. He's wearing a pair of runners and a pair of tracksuit bottoms.
Yeah, and the black cap. Yeah, so it was in that.
So, I mean, if Hale Wine Bar are holding themselves up there as some sort of exclusive venue,
are you going to turn him away from the door? I think you can get away with just about anything, really.
Sorry, pal, you don't match the dress code.
Dave, not everyone goes around in tight t-shirts, and
the one he was wearing was pretty tight there.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not wearing runners and a pair of tracksuit bottoms. Anyway, I'm just saying it doesn't say much for Hale Wine Bar and their clientele. Anyway, it's still nil-all at the London Stadium, and City are the Premier League champions. So, last half an hour, I don't think we mentioned it in commentary, yourself and myself, yesterday in the Manchester United West Bromwich Albion game, that we actually could be about to see the Premier League title being decided here. We didn't mention it. The first time was about an hour into the game.
Yeah. I didn't think
it wasn't on our radar.
We'd been having this conversation tonight we were having. I thought we knew inevitably it was always going to happen, but not tonight, not yesterday. We didn't think we would have been maybe talking about the Premier League triumph. But it was just largely down to how United played. And then when we started to, you'd mentioned it late on in the game, you started to think, yeah, this is a possibility. The way West Brom
only take one moment here.
And regardless of yesterday's result and how it went, how it transpired to get them the Premier League title, it's been a brilliant season for them. The style of football they've played has been exceptional. And everyone has played the part, even that man Company, who certainly wasn't really involved in the early stage of the season, hasn't really been fully involved over the last couple of years. For him to come back from the injury layoff that he's had, the continuous injury layoff he's had over the last few years, it's exceptional. It shows the strength of character that he's got within himself, really, to come back from all those injuries. And
you're just looking at the stats, 15 league games this season.
Yeah.
All starts.
To play, but he did, and he contributed in a big way as well, didn't he? A lot of the games as well when there was maybe a few question marks over them defensively.
Only 10 starts last season.
Yeah. How many the year before?
The year before,
Dave, I don't know if you
13.
Yeah. He's not been fully involved over the last few seasons, has he? And I mean, that was maybe one of the things that went against Man City. I spoke earlier on in the news round talking about perhaps Man City could have won more titles, perhaps should have won more titles over the last 6 or 7 years.
You have to go back to the other one, the first one, the Aguero goal, for the last time he played more than 28 matches.
Yeah, well, that says it all, doesn't it? You can
6 years.
You could solely look at the fact is that Vincent Kompany wasn't involved so often over the last few years. It's one of the key reasons, I feel.
When he's consistently fit, they certainly tend to win.
Yeah, they look better, and I think it's much as the same as we spoke about Virgil van Dijk for Liverpool over the last few weeks. It's the calmness that he brings to the back four, and he doesn't panic. It's never a rush clearance with him, and I think that just then sets the tone, I suppose.
So he's making the defenders around him better.
Yeah, definitely, and I think as well, with one thing you'll notice, you would have seen City enough up close over the last year or the last few years. You see vocally what he brings to the side as well, talking, organisation. There's not a lot of players that's coming into the game now that have that sort of leadership skills or are able to maybe articulate it the way that he does as well.
They're a dying breed, these organisers, aren't they?
Yeah, and you can see it. You can see it clearly. And, you know, we get Kenny regularly on the show. Kenny would have been that type of player. Kenny would have been an organiser. He would have been someone that would speak to players, would have been able to maybe coerce them into different positions on the pitch. I think that's what Kompany does. I think he does, and that's certainly the impression that I get when I watch him. And you can see other players almost taking the lead from him as to where they're going to go. I know City almost play with that bit of freedom anyway, particularly in front of him, the midfield. But as a back four at times, when you are a little bit exposed, he's got the mentality to almost. Yeah, he's got to get back, first of all, try and get goal side, try to get back and regain the shape of the side. But he's also, as he's doing that, organising as he's moving. It's a skill in itself. OK, we're going to get to Pat Nevin in a moment, but I want to ask you one question about another story, because we're going to talk City, obviously, with Pat. Zlatan Ibrahimovic over the weekend has said that he has dropped a pretty big hint on social media that he's going to be playing at the World Cup this year. Despite the fact there's been zero comment from the Swedish FA. When the Press Association went to them in the last couple of days for a comment, there was none forthcoming, and there's been no comment whatsoever from the Swedish manager, Jan Andersson. And I'm just thinking, like, we know he's arrogant. We know he's got a big ego and fancies himself as a superstar, has done for a long, long time, possibly since the day he was born. And he has been an incredibly good striker over the years. But it must be really
difficult to stomach if you're a Swedish attacker that's been part of the group, that went through the group stages, that got rid of the Italians in the playoffs, and to hear him just come out and say, oh, fair play to you lads, you qualified, yeah, I'm going to turn up now.
Yeah, there's part of me that would be like that, along that sort of line. I just think maybe myself that would have played, you know, in all the qualifiers, played every game in the qualifying for all 2, and all of a sudden then someone comes out of retirement and says they're going to be part of it. Sometimes it's slightly different when someone makes a bit of a run towards the end of the season. They're in great form and all of a sudden they catch the eye. James McLean certainly did that in the lead up to Euro 2012. He came from Norway in many respects and got himself a place. This is very different, isn't it? This is someone who's officially retired. He hasn't been part of that squad, as you say, for a couple of years.
He's been pretty much injured for a year. Yeah,
now all of a sudden he feels fit. He scored a few goals over in LA. He wants to make himself available. I think he'll certainly, the one thing, if he were to come back, it's quite interesting that there's been no comment from anyone officially from the Swedish FA. I think they're maybe at the moment trying to distance themselves from it, because if the manager doesn't want him, what are they going to say?
It's in a very awkward spot the manager finds himself in. And so, for example... I'd
like to think that conversation would have been had, though, Dave, behind closed doors, and he's had the conversation, he's got a positive sort of message, that then he's then got he's brash or the arrogance.
Not beyond Zlatan to start putting it out there without having received any kind of a positive message.
Without a doubt.
So if he's in the squad, say for example he is in the squad, is he happy to start group games on the bench?
Well, you don't know if he goes and he's fit and he's actually showing the levels in training that we've seen from him. He will start. He'll probably start the games. Again, it will be a slap in the face, as you say, for the lads. I don't know who actually would have started the majority of games for the group. I don't have that in my head now, but I would imagine that whoever it would be, you would be raging. Of course you would be raging. Yeah. But on the flip side, as I said, a majority would be with you what you're saying, but it does make Sweden. And what would the supporters want?
Well, the supporters don't care. If
he's there scoring
makes
goals,
them better.
Exactly, it is.
Come on
that's the way it is,
and we'd be the same in an Irish situation.
Yeah, exactly. When we, obviously, if we've had Roy Keane over the years, or whoever it would be that have not been playing for whatever reason, as soon as they come back, there's been that buzz around the side again that we have one of our better players back, and I would imagine that'd be the same with Swedish supporters. Yeah.
Okay, 64.5 minutes played at the London Stadium. It's still West Ham United 0, Stoke City 0. Coming up, it's Pat Nevin.
Football on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by the Boyle Sports app. Cash out and in-play betting available in the App Store and Google Play Store.
News Talk Breakfast.
Where are we with the final wording of that backstop? How optimistic are you that can happen in the coming weeks and months, or are we looking at October before there will be final agreement on that, and how worrying would that be?
The British government has committed to negotiating a wording to have a backstop in the withdrawal treaty, and those negotiations are now very much underway. But we would certainly like to see significant progress on agreeing that wording by June, not October. And if there isn't progress on the backstop and the wording around the backstop within the withdrawal treaty by June, then I think we have to ask some very serious questions.
News Talk Breakfast, weekday mornings at 7.
In association with AIR.
Back tomorrow on News Talk.
If you could hear pain,
it might sound like this.
Or this. And it can make you feel like this. You can't hear pain, but you can hear the sound of pain relief. Panadol Extra is up to 30% more powerful than standard paracetamol, so it can treat tough pain, which means you can get back to being you.
Panadol, made in Ireland, trusted worldwide. Panadol Extra, 500mg, 65mg soluble effervescent tablets, contains paracetamol. Always read the label.
I'm Mary, and last year I set up Sun Fun Ireland. They're holidays based entirely around sunshine in Ireland. Sunbathing, beach volleyball, that sort of crack. And there's a bit of weather risk involved, alright, but isn't that all part of the fun?
Sun Fun Ireland is not an Energia customer because Sun Fun Ireland is not a clever business. People like Mary don't recognise that switching and slicing up to 20% off your energy bills is just, well, the clever business thing to do. If you're a clever business, visit energia.ie/business to see how you can save. Savings based on our standard business rates. Terms and conditions apply. See energia.ie.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
Good evening, Pat Nevin. How are you?
I'm very good. And I have to say, Dave, I never get bored with that tune. I never get bored with it. Even though you play it every time. And on top of that, it's my ringtone on my phone. I still don't get bored with it. I'm delighted. Excellent.
You're holed up in a hotel room somewhere. Is it somewhere tropical, somewhere exclusive?
No, I've been doing a speech at Derby University tonight. So I'm in a hotel in Derby, of all places, which is Derbyshire is nice. I'm not so sure Derby is one of the most beautiful cities in the world, but Derbyshire is absolutely gorgeous. And you've not got me on, actually a video of me tonight, but that's good news because Kevin and I are wearing the same shirt, so that's a good idea that we're not doing it.
Pat, do you mind me asking what you were doing a speech on?
Actually, it was the students who are in the media, are going into media, and they wanted to ask some questions and they wanted me to talk about it. And it's a really interesting area because lots of people want to get into the media, as we know, but it's a tough gig, as we know, and it's changing all the time, and it's a really hard one. So they had some good questions, and they were good students. But to be fair, it's because it changes so much. 1 minute you're doing podcasts, next time you're doing radio shows, TV shows. You have to write, you have to do a million different things, and it changes all the time. So, these kids that are coming into this job now, it's a tough one, isn't it?
It is tough. It's changing by the day, as we know ourselves here in Off the Ball and in News Talk. It's still 0-0 at the London Stadium, 68.5 minutes played, but we were very close to the first goal there. Fernandes, the West Ham midfielder, had a long-range effort from just outside the D, and it went into the back of the net. He clearly isn't offside from the position where he struck it, but Marko Arnautovic is standing around the penalty spot.
Yeah,
and it's right in the goalkeeper's eye line, so the flag has gone up.
Yeah, it was a correct decision, and I think you correctly said as well. I think he actually got
he certainly tried to play it.
He got a nick on it, so yeah, it was the right decision, good decision. We just see another save actually from Jack Butland tonight there as well. It was actually a free kick from Creswell round the wall, but comfortable enough save for Butland as well. But they're the ones.
You think it's one goal away from safety, just about, for West Ham.
Yeah, I think that was the thing. It was almost relief, Pat, at the stadium. You could actually see it when that went in. They thought, that's it, we've got it, that's us safe, and he was in an offside position. It was a great call from Michael Oliver, who has been under a little bit of pressure this week, as we know.
Just a bit.
Yeah.
So, Pat, the inevitable transpired yesterday, maybe a week earlier than we thought it might. We didn't expect the bottom side to go to Old Trafford and win, but Manchester City's season and the manner in which they've won this Premier League title, sum it up for us. A 15-point deficit in the last campaign in Pep's first season in charge to what could be a 15 or 16-point winning tally by the end of the campaign, and only 2 defeats in there to date. It's pretty spectacular when you take it in its totality.
Yeah, and that's the stats, and you add the 93 goals so far in the league as well. I mean, the stats are absolutely fantastic, but let's forget about the stats and let's talk about the football. And it's been brilliant, hasn't it? I mean, of all the stuff that's remembered from this year and this season, it won't be necessarily, if it's a record amount of points or whatever. It's not that. It's the beauty of the football in the vast majority of the games that they've played. The fact that they've asked a lot of questions that haven't been asked in English football. I was going to say for a long time, but arguably ever. And it's been a joy to watch. What's intriguing already, and I think they're thinking about it already, is what they're going to do next season, how they're going to A, keep it going, and B, improve on it. And I suspect they'll try and improve on it. If there was a weakness in the side that you would try and push at, was probably in the left back area. But they'll have Benjamin Mendy back next year, and he's absolutely amazing. He was, when his short period, he was stunning. You stick him on that team as well, and it's bordering on scary, and you won't be surprised if they buy another centre forward as well. So yeah, it's been brilliant. It's been beautiful. It's been a real eye opener, and maybe the only thing that's a negative, because we always have to try and look for something, is when they have lost the odd game. You've said, okay, that's the answer. The Wigan game, the United game there. You think to yourself, well, wait a minute, is that how you do it? The Liverpool game, is that how you do it? Do you press them high? Do you play at that rate? Do you got to get lucky? All these things added together. Is anyone going to do what Manchester City have done in their style? Not a chance. Only Liverpool are kind of fairly close to it. Spurs have got something of it as well, but they're a long way behind City.
Yeah, we've been having the chat earlier on as well, Pat, around how great this side are in relation to certainly during Premier League era, and we Dave's actually pointed out that it's 5 actually titles for Man City, not just necessarily 3 Premier League titles. But where can we judge them? Where can we put them alongside? Can we do that, or is it simply just not even an issue? We've just got to admire what they've done.
is it not between you and I to try and do this? Because we had slightly overlapping careers. So I managed to play against the great Liverpool side of the 80s, not the 70s, of the 80s. You played against, United, when they were a fantastic side as well. You probably played against Arsenal when they were a fabulous side. So it's what it feels like and what it looks like. And to be honest, the closest I've seen was that Liverpool team, who were absolutely brilliant. I mean, you had the quality of players of Souness, you had Dalglish, you had Hansen, most of the way through the team, you had absolutely brilliant players. And it was that classic one, the old adage you used to say about Liverpool at the time was, well, don't give them the ball because you ain't going to get it back for 10 minutes. Well, that's exactly the way it feels with Manchester City. But it kind of slightly pains me to say that. I think this is certainly better to look at.
But Pat, that's if you frame the conversation around the best one-season team.
Well, I was just going to say
the history of English League football or the Premier League or the old First Division. But if you're talking about a great Premier League team, they have to do it at least back-to-back, Pat. They have to do it 3 in a row.
And do they have to win? Do they have to win a European title as well? Do you have to draw that into the
You're
mix?
asking a different question to I'm answering. So you're asking best. So what you mean for best and what I mean for best and what other people mean for best is different. If it's best, it comes down to the number of championships, the number of points you win it by. Did you win European football games? I'm slightly different. I've always been sort of more of the aesthetic side. Are they a more beautiful team to watch? Are their goals built in such a way that's extraordinary that nobody else does it that way? And in those two areas, yes, they're the best. That absolutely, I would say they're the best. And the other areas of winning trophies, etc. Pep Guardiola isn't as good as Jose Mourinho. But what is best? It depends what you mean by best. You can do it by stats, or you can do it by a more artistic, aesthetic way. My way just happens to be the aesthetic way because I love watching beautiful football because I want to be entertained. I don't want to just win. I want to win and win beautiful. But that's the history that I was brought up in. I watched football. My first team that I watched and loved was the Brazil 1970 team, and that was winning and winning beautiful. And then I watched Celtic winning 9 trophies in a row in early days when I was a kid, and they did it winning absolutely beautifully. And it wasn't good enough to win well. You had to win well and stylishly. And you can't argue that Manchester City are the most stylish and artistic team you've probably seen in the league.
Are we viewing Pep Guardiola then in the... I know, across the course of his career, he's been exceptional what he's done at Barcelona and Bayern, yes. But are we putting him now in the serious bracket of the top ever? Again, it's maybe a hypothetical question to an extent, but in Premier League terms anyway. Given I maybe in relation to what he has done with Raheem Sterling, what he's done with even Nicolas Otamendi. Yes, he's made mistakes recently, but across the course of the season, he's much improved. Even Fabian Delph, Dave touched on this earlier on, what he's done with Fabian Delph, playing him at left back. What he's done with players that were perhaps being questioned over the last couple of years, and how he's got the best out of them. Is that how we're judging Pep Guardiola's greatness as well?
Well, as a player, that's how we would judge him, isn't it? Can you maximise the potential of every individual you've got? And I would say that's what he does. I mean, I've said in this programme quite a few times, there's lots of top managers that get top players in and do a great job in managing those top players, and moulding them into a team. But how many honestly get top players and then make them even better? And, okay, you could argue Jurgen Klopp does to some degree, certainly Pochettino does to a certain degree as well. There's no argument with that. But does anybody do it better than Pep? I don't know. I don't know if I see anyone doing that specific job better than Pep. And on top of that, the other thing, I think we go back to his history and you look at Barcelona. And yes, well done. That was the best team I've ever enjoyed watching, alongside that Brazil 70 side. But they are the best team I've enjoyed watching. Barcelona at the best. But he did have Messi and Xavi and Iniesta in his team. So, okay, let's ask another question. Let's see what you do after that. And Bayern was good. It was okay. Yeah, no problem. It was okay. It was fine. But it certainly wasn't to the level of Barca. Manchester City have got a chance of doing that. They've got a chance of redeveloping football and pushing it on in a different direction. And that says something special, doesn't it? That's if you change the direction of football, that says something. And certainly Barcelona did. And Manchester City have a chance of doing so. I'm not saying they're going to, but they've got a chance of doing it.
What about them defensively, Kevin? Because they conceded 39 goals in the Premier League last season. They've got the best record defensively in the Premier League this season. He was willing to admit that he'd made a mistake with Claudio Bravo, just kept him in for one season, and he's clearly signed a far better goalkeeper in Ederson.
Yeah.
And while they get so many plaudits for the way they play going forward with the ball, all these brilliant attacking players and wonderful passing and brilliant movement, and all the goals they scored, 93 of them, to go into the final 5 games of the season with the best defensive record is maybe even more of a testament to what Guardiola's done.
I think the goalkeeping situation was one that was a bit of a worry coming in. We didn't really know too much of Ederson. How was he going to cope with the Premier League? He didn't look physically like he would be able to cope with everything. That's all been thrown out the window. He's like an upgraded version of Victor Valdez. He's a better goalkeeper than Victor Valdez, certainly shot stopping wise, commanding of his penalty area, and he's equally as good, if not better, with his kicking. So he's actually taken that onto a next level from even if you're talking in Barcelona terms. Back four, as I mentioned, Otamendi, he's certainly improved, but his whole game plan is around keeping the ball. So he said, first of all, you've got to get the ball off them to actually go and attack them. That's been the one thing that's been the standout. When you've got De Bruyne and Silva on your side and Fernandinho, these lads are just sensational footballers that keep the ball for fun. So ultimately, I think he has taken them on, yeah.
We've had a goal at the London Stadium, and it's a massive one. Peter Crouch, 78.5 minutes played, and Crouch has given Stoke the lead in what is a result that will take them...
Oh, this is huge.
...to within 3 points of Swansea City, who occupied the 4th bottom position in the Premier League table. It was a long-range shot. I think it was a brilliant drop of the shoulder in congested area from Shaqiri. Got the ball out of his feet, fired one through a number of bodies, and it was parried badly by Joe Hart. And Peter Crouch showing he still is nimble feet when required, because he got onto the end of it. Terrible goalkeeper from Joe Hart.
Yeah.
We're just speaking about the Manchester City goalkeeper situation. Obviously, he was the first keeper to be jettisoned by Pep Guardiola, then Claudio Bravo. But if Stoke managed to hold out there...
You know what, it's actually come through a lot of bodies. Yeah, it's a mistake. Don't get me wrong, it is a mistake, but it's come through a lot of bodies.
He's gone for the rebound with his foot.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of his hands.
Yeah.
A bit more bravery, please, Joe.
Yeah, perhaps. But it's getting away from him as well. But credit, Crouch comes on. Both managers make changes. David Moyes brings on Chicharito, Avi Hernandez, and Peter Crouch comes on for Stoke. And that's the difference. The two strikers that have come on, Peter Crouch has made the impact.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, I think that moves him ahead of Jonathan Walters, and we've just seen the stat on the screen. He's moved on to 44 Premier League goals for Stoke, and Johnny Walters is now in behind Peter Crouch on 43.
That's a massive goal at the bottom, huge. That's where it's all at now, isn't it? It's about the bottom of the Premier League. Realistic now to the end of the season. Top four looks sewn up. It's about what's going to happen and who's going to be able to stay up and maybe go on a run to the end of the season.
Let's go back to Pat. Sorry, Pat, we almost forgot you were there.
No problem. No, I was interested anyway, because I've been saying for quite a long time, I'm not convinced Swansea are safe. Think somebody's going to put a wee run. Stoke aren't a terrible side. Southampton are not a terrible side. Swansea have had a brilliant run, but they're still not out of it, and I worry about Swansea. I really do. It should be a real shame because they've worked hard.
I was going to say maybe just take it on a little bit for you, but you were at Newcastle Arsenal yesterday, and I heard you post match. I've seen the clip that you've done with Nathan as well, talking about the job that Rafa Benitez has done with limited resources, it has to be said, with probably as an average Newcastle squad as there probably ever been during the Premier League years, and for him to get them safe with this amount of games to go and the achievement he's done, how good an achievement is that for Rafa Benitez?
I'm bordering speechless how well he's done. Do you know, we don't always get it right. I have to say I wasn't a fan of Rafa Benitez in his Liverpool time. It had this thing where he kept on saying when the team won, you know, it was all about his great tactics, and when they lost, it was how the players let him down. And you know, as a player, that drives you nuts. And it was used to really annoy me. I didn't have a high opinion of him, even though I knew he was a good coach. And then I watched him when he came to Chelsea, and I realised, wait a minute, there's more to you than that. And I think this period he's been at Newcastle, he's showed what an individual he is. He showed what a heart he's got, staying with Newcastle, and then building them up to what he has with, as you say, these limited resources. And the brilliance of it is he's maximising the potential of people who are underachieving. And that's what we're talking about with Pep. You know, that's what you have to do. I mean, there are a good number of examples. I mean, you've watched Gale all the way through his career, and he'd drive you nuts most of the time because his behaviour wasn't always great. You wondered about the attitude. You knew he could score a goal. I watched him at the weekend there. He walked off after 62 minutes to a standing ovation. 62 minutes. How many players walk off after 62 minutes? And he had worked. And he's been doing this all season. So he's got inside Gale's head and changed him as a person and as a player. Kennedy, he's done the same with him because, as I was trying to explain to people yesterday, as we say in Scotland, excuse our phraseology, but his head was his head is full of wee beasties, i.e. he's off his head. And you know exactly what you're coming from there. But he's got sense out of him. But above and beyond all that, what he's got off of John Joe Shelvey, we all know how good John Joe Shelvey can be. Yeah. He was an England international, and if his head and his off the field was in the right place all the time, he would be in that midfield all the time for England, whereas he's not even in the squad just now. And you look at what he's done for Newcastle. Now, he didn't have the best game he's ever had at the weekend there, but in that midfield, along with Diame, they've been absolutely dominating teams this year. And I mean year, I don't mean season, I mean this year. And it's been brilliant to see. And that's a good manager. That's a right good manager. Get the most out of people who are underachieving, and then the guys you bring in, make sure you do well. And I don't know how much you've seen of Dubravka, their goalkeeper. He doesn't make any mistakes. He is one of the best buys of the season. He's been phenomenal.
And all of this, Pat, the backdrop being a club that's still a bit of a basket case off the field, still up for sale, the owner refusing to put any more money into the club in terms of spending on players because he knows he wants out. And Rafa Benitez has probably doubled the value of the club for the owner by keeping them in the Premier League in the way that he has. So all which leads to the question, why would Benitez want to stay for another season when surely, after this brilliant performance, arguably it's up there with what he achieved at Valencia, winning a Champions League with Liverpool in relative terms. You would imagine there's going to be a lot of top clubs needing a manager over the course of the summer, Arsenal possibly being one. Why would you look further than Rafa Benitez?
Exactly. I wouldn't disagree with you for a second, but there is only one caveat. He actually seems to love Newcastle. He actually seems to love the place. He loves the fans. He loves that it's got, every club's special in its own way. We know that. But how many clubs have got, that number of fans that turn out every single week, win, lose or draw, and as passionate as they are? It's extraordinary. Now, Newcastle are the nearest club to where I live, so I get to see a lot of Newcastle. And every time you go and see them one week, earlier in the season, and they were awful some games, and you turn up the next game, you're thinking, well, those fans will be in a bad mood. And you turn up, and the place is buzzing again. And I think that if there's anything that's going to hold them, I don't think there's anything else. There's two things that can hold them. One, new owner throwing money at it. Two, he's actually fallen in love with the place and the fans. And because I've got to know Rafa just a little bit more, it's not beyond the bounds of possibility. He might have fallen in love with him. If he's a hard-nosed businessman, he's off and he's going to get a big club because there's plenty who'll have him.
What do you think, Kev? If a big offer comes in, a Champions League club, now if that is the criteria that Benitez is operating off, it's unlikely to be Arsenal unless they get past Atletico and win the Europa League. But if it is, say Allegri goes to Chelsea, for example, Juve go looking for Benitez?
Yeah. It's a difficult one to turn down, let's be fair. You go into a side that's probably going to win their own domestic title. You go into a side that's going to probably get to a quarter-final or a semi-final of the Champions League. So
surely that's how he measures himself as a manager.
Well, he does, yeah.
Can I ask you both a quick question then in the middle of this, right? Yeah, I get that. That's exactly sense. That's hard-nosed business, absolutely. But did any of you think he would stay with that club in the Championship?
No, I didn't.
I didn't.
No, I certainly didn't. No, I didn't. He was obviously giving guarantees when he went down, wasn't he?
But I didn't see whatever guarantee. What guarantees? You're in the Championship, for goodness sake. For a guy who sees himself as a Champions League manager, I mean, who makes that decision? With the head.
Well, it certainly backs up what you're saying about there being a clear connection between Benitez, the city, the club and the supporters.
It's hard to overlook as well, the connection there. We all want to be loved, essentially. He is getting as much love as he's ever had. Maybe Liverpool fans when they were in the Champions League. I think, it'd be total admiration for what they're giving him, but he'll love it. I think secretly he'll actually love it. What's happening there?
I don't know where else. It may have happened at Liverpool, but at the game for News Talk at the weekend, there was a banner that was about 50 feet high. It's just a photograph of him on it. I don't know if he's had that anywhere before. He is absolutely and utterly adored there. And the other thing he's got that flat catcher situation where if anything goes wrong, they're not going to blame him anyway. They're going to blame somebody else. So he's almost. So I'm not saying he's going to stay, but for most other people, I would say it's a given. He's off. Oddly enough, with him, I think it's less of a 90% he's off. I think it's a 50-50.
Yeah,
it's an interesting one to keep an eye on over the course of the summer.
I was at Anfield on Saturday, Pat, as well. Again, seeing another dominant Liverpool performance as well. We've not really had the chance to chat to you around the Champions League performance last week against Manchester City. Where do you see it going against Roma, I suppose? And what about their performances, particularly since the turn of the year then?
Yeah, well, their performances have been brilliant. I mean, that old phrase by Samuel Goldwyn originally said that nobody knows anything. He asked me at the start of the season, I'd have said no chance Liverpool winning the Champions League. Be serious. There's not a depth of the squad. And then they sell Coutinho and you think, oh, don't be daft. You have no chance. There's not depth there. And we're all looking at it now and we're all thinking, yeah, they could win it. They absolutely could win it. It's a tough gig against Roma. I watched Roma home and away games against Chelsea in the group stages, and don't underestimate them. They're saving themselves for the Champions League game. They're not anywhere near winning Scudetto, so that's where their thoughts are and their considerations are. And they're a hard team to beat. They've got a team with a really good spirit, and they've got that underdog thing where they've nothing to lose. They've overperformed belief. So I think it's going to be a really, it's a really interesting one with Roma and them. That's not the game. I'm off to the other one, sadly. That boring little one between Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. But which might actually not be bad in itself. But for Liverpool, they got the tie they wanted, didn't they? And if you've got that tie, they're probably fairly safe in the top four. I mean, I would say they're 90% safe. Oddly enough, explaining this in News Talk at the weekend there.
Sorry,
when
Pat.
Chelsea
Goal.
Andy Carroll has equalised. It's a dagger in the heart of Stoke City. In the 90th minute, Andy Carroll, ball just floated into the penalty area and he struck it from about 10-12 yards
Great
out
volley.
pretty well, low into the corner. Very difficult for
just off the bench
Butland to deal with.
Literally 5 minutes off the bench. Much the same. We talked about the strikers. Peter Crouch coming on to change it for Stoke. Now Carroll coming off the bench, and he has changed it. It wasn't the greatest the ball's played into him. A little bit behind him. He's got a swivel. It's a great finish.
Taryn Cresswell has put a half decent ball in, curling into the area, and he's hit it just inside the penalty area. He guided it left foot. It didn't put much power into it. It was just threaded around the defender.
That's a good goal.
It's a brilliant finish from Andy Carroll. He is capable of that. In front of Gareth Southgate as well. Could he be a bolter for the English squad if he plays well in the last 3 or 4 games and manages to prove his fitness? But so 1-1, and they are into the first of 4 additional minutes.
That's a big change, isn't it?
On Liverpool, Pat, they have played City 4 times this season, but they've won the last 3. And they've clearly shown a consistency in performance in the latter stages of this season, whereby they're beating the lower ranking teams with far more routineness than they would have done in Klopp's first 2 years in charge, and certainly going beyond Klopp's time at Anfield. And when you put all that together and how well they're doing in Europe, are they the most likely team to be able to deal with City next season on a more consistent 38-game basis, given the 3 wins they have against them?
Well, I'm going to say exactly the same thing as I said at the beginning of this season for Liverpool. You've got to strengthen that squad. You keep on looking at that bench and you think you will not continue to keep those first 11, 12, stroke 13 players utterly fit and in great form for the entire season. It just won't. It cannot happen. I mean, it's been great this season and they've managed it, much to my surprise. Again, as Coutinho leaves, it's a shock. It's a shock that they've managed to do that. But that's unnatural. That for 2 seasons in a row, and it particularly cannot happen in a post-World Cup year. You don't get that. Too many of your players have been involved in World Cups, and they will be jaded at some points, and they will pick up 1 or 2 injuries. So that comes down purely to what Jurgen Klopp adds. Now, I mean, I don't know what he's going to add. I think there is some money there. Obviously, the Coutinho money, there's some left there. It's an opportunity to get them, and I wouldn't be surprised. The odd thing is, Liverpool are Manchester City's kryptonite, aren't they? They are exactly the type of team they don't want to face. They're not going to sit off them. They're not going to sit back and just accept having no possession at all. They're going to be able to adapt. You know, they're going to play high tempo sometimes. They're going to be able to sit back sometimes. They can play in the break sometimes. When they do get half a chance, they've got brilliant forwards. So they are the kryptonite for Manchester City. I still think, to be honest, it's no big boast this. They're a distance behind Man City still. And if anyone's going to add big players and the right big players, you've got a suspicion it's going to be City more than Liverpool. But hey, they confounded us this year, didn't they, Liverpool? And well done. And I always say this to Liverpool fans, because being ex-Everton like yourself, Kev, you know, we get a bit of stick. But they're a joy to watch. I love watching Liverpool. And I don't even mind saying that.
You can't argue against it. Pat, enjoy the rest of your night in Derby.
I will do. Have a good one, guys.
We'll talk to you next week. Pat Nevin, who was on our commentary team at St James's Park alongside Nathan yesterday, seeing Newcastle beat Arsenal, giving his thoughts on maybe whether or not Liverpool can really contend against Manchester City next season. 1-1, 45 seconds left at the London Stadium. It's a handy point for West Ham. Definitely 2 points drop for Stoke.
Yeah.
And when or if they go down, they may look at the concession of that late goal.
They probably deserved it, West Ham, I would say. I think they've been the side that have forced the issue throughout. But yeah, when you go in front and you concede a late goal like that, that is a hammer blow, yeah.
West Ham have actually since had the ball in the back of the net a second time, and I think there was a right call made against Andy Carroll for a handball at the penalty.
What a difference he's made to Andy Carroll,
he's still going, looking for the winner. Javier Hernandez to put the ball, brilliantly struck shot actually, but ruled out for a handball from Andy Carroll. Okay, a couple of bits and bobs to get through before we leave you at 10 o'clock, but we'll be back in a couple of minutes after this break.
Off the ball
on News Talk. As the dog of the house, I know exactly what my family are thinking. Right now, they're convinced I am upset they're heading off on holidays. Me? Upset? Yeah, right. They have AA travel insurance, so I won't have to worry about them while I'm living it up with the neighbour's French poodle, Fifi. Ooh la la.
Go to the AA.ie and get annual travel insurance from only $24.99. And you're even covered before you go. Who's got clever travel insurance? Online value price covers one adult under 50 to Europe. AA Ireland Limited, trading as AA Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. AA Insurance is tied to inter-partner assistance for the purpose of selling travel insurance.
Calling all retailers, don't miss Ireland's biggest and best retail show, the Retail Excellence Retail Retreat and Expo. 2,000 delegates, 150 cutting-edge expo partners, 70 world-class and inspirational speakers, including CEOs and business leaders past and present. Victoria's Secret, Applegreen, Leon Restaurants, John Lewis, Dreams, Woody's, Harvey Norman, The Retail Doctor, with Paul O'Connell, Brian Cody, David McWilliams and many more. All happening at City West Convention Centre May 15th and 16th. Visit retailexcellence.ie now to find out how you can exhibit or attend.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
So it's gone full time at the London Stadium. It's finished West Ham 1, Stoke City 1, which keeps Stoke in the bottom two on 28 points. Still 5 points adrift of safety. Swansea in 17th place. West Ham pick up 1 point and they move above Huddersfield Town and into 14th on 35 points. So there's a 7 point cushion between themselves and the bottom three. They do have a game in hand and some of the teams below them as well. A couple of other bits and pieces from the weekend. I was watching the highlights of the Southampton-Chelsea game. And there was, if any of you have not seen the challenge from Marcus Alonso and Shane Long, you need to have a look at it. It was somehow missed by Mike Dean. It's an X-rated challenge. It's a red card 10 times out of 10. And it was under the nose of the referee, Mike Dean. He wasn't blindsided. He didn't have a body in front of him. He wasn't elsewhere on the pitch dealing with something else. He was literally 5 yards from it, looking directly at it. And having missed that, it was being analysed on Sky Sports News by Matt Le Tissier and Dennis Wise. And needless to say, they were not impressed by the performance of Mike Dean.
How this is not seen by the referee is bizarre. If he wasn't quite so arrogant, he'd probably be embarrassed about not missing a tackle like this. I mean, where is Alonso even trying to go? What's he trying to do? There's only one thing in his mind there, and that's to hurt Shane Long. And Mike Dean, if you see the other camera angle, was looking right at the incident.
This is a joke.
How on earth
honestly,
misses this is incredible.
This is a joke by Mike Dean. He knows what's gone on.
Absolutely
and
incredible.
And you know, he's just
and
took a blind eye to it.
He puts his arms out.
And he'll turn around and he'll say, I'll never see it. Now, if he never see that, he, one, shouldn't be refereeing, and two, he needs glasses. It's as simple as that.
Should there be red cards?
That's a red card. You know, I'm a Chelsea boy, but, you know, I have done one or two of them in my career, and I should have gone. And so he hasn't even bothered with the ball. And the thing about it, I think the frustration after that, I think Ward-Prowse got booked because he realised what Alonso had actually done to basically, Long, and he's reacted to that frustration, and he gets a yellow card. He should have dealt with that, and that situation wouldn't have occurred then.
Letitia also said, is there a worse referee in the Premier League than Mike Dean? But I have to laugh. The presenter, was it Kelly Cates?
Yes.
Should that have been a red card? Yes!
Well,
yes, it should have been a red card!
Yeah, for clarity purposes, was it? Yeah, it wasn't. It was actually you pointed it out to me yesterday. I hadn't seen it before. I was like, how on earth that has been missed? I don't know. Because it did change the game. We can't get away from it. And there was a bad mistake in the lead up to Chelsea's
second
first goal.
The Hazard goal.
The Hazard goal, sorry.
Yeah, where
was it a Giroud goal? I think it was a Giroud goal.
It was Giroud's first goal, yeah.
Yeah, it was, and that again changed.
Whereby a free kick is taken from the completely wrong area. The referee spots it, tells Fabregas, no, you can't take it from there, points to where the foul was committed, and then Fabregas moves the ball about a metre to his left. Again under the nose of the referee, takes it, still 10 metres away from where he should have taken it, and Mike Dean just waves play on. And the ball that was put in for that goal was from who? A brilliantly curled ball in from the left side.
That's it.
Marcus Alonso. And Southampton were a goal up at the time that challenge comes in from Alonso and Shade Long. Like, it's a game changer.
Yeah, it is.
He had an awful game, Mike Dean. But the line from Letitia, if he wasn't quite so arrogant, he might be embarrassed by that mistake. And you've talked about Mike Dean before. The players as a collective do not seem to like the way that he speaks to them. There is a smugness and an arrogance to him that maybe you don't get from every referee.
Do you know what? I honestly, 9 out of every 10 referees, I didn't mind him. I actually quite liked Mark Clattenburg. I got on well with him, had a bit of a laugh, if necessary, you know, within reasons, you know. Obviously, Dermot Gallagher he's a friend now, Dermot, so I'd speak to Dermot regularly. There were so many refs Alan Wiley, they were good refs. You know, if they made a mistake, it'd be like, yeah, all right. But never got that with Mike at all. No, never ever got that with him.
Okay.
No, didn't. It was difficult. Yeah, it was difficult. Yeah.
Before we let you go, you were at Anfield Saturday. You've already talked about the build-up. You're there 2 or 3 hours before kick-off. The place is buzzing. People want to go and watch Liverpool.
Yeah.
We're at Old Trafford yesterday. Empty seats before half-time. A lot of empty seats 7-8 minutes before the end when they're a goal down. And this fabled club, for its comebacks in injury time and Fergie time and all that kind of stuff, you could hear the players call for the ball almost at times. You could hear individual catcalls from the stands. Just another day where the atmosphere at Old Trafford is abysmal.
Well, I got a total contrast over the weekend, as you say. Saturday, 3 hours. I arrived very early at Anfield, 3 or 4 hours before the game, and the place is buzzing. That took over. Yes, there was the Hillsborough memorial as well, Hillsborough, marking the Hillsborough disaster, of course, as well. That, of course, did get the emotion stirred a bit. But the atmosphere through the game was electric, and Liverpool's probably aided that. Contrast that with Manchester United. Us two get into the game, dour feeling through the game, dourness, and then, of course, if you're looking at it overall, as you say, the real negative atmosphere throughout the game. It was eerie. It was silent. It wasn't a great watch even watching the game, but also the crowd. That was very, very noticeable. You contrast the two sides, two great clubs. Very, very different sort of outlook, I think, within both clubs at the moment, both pre-match and post-match, and you've seen a much better product on the pitch as well.
Okay.
We've got to give a mention for Celtic as well, Dave. Big mention for Celtic this weekend.
Heading for another treble.
Yeah.
Second in a row.
Big win this weekend against Rangers. So, yeah.
Right, well, I'm shuffling my papers, which means you need to stop talking now.
All right.
Kev, thanks for your company tonight and all weekend.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure, Dave.
OTB AM is back at 7:45 tomorrow with Ger and the lads. And, of course, we'll be back tomorrow night from 7. Nathan's in the hot seat tomorrow evening. Have a very good night.